Recording. So, well, welcome everybody who's joined us, but most of all, welcome you, Amanda O'Shea, the inimitable. And it's really nice to see you again. And these calls on a Sunday evening are kind of additional to the calls that I do once a month, and it's largely in support of a conference that we're both speaking at in May of this year in Minnesota. It's what is the title of the conference again? It's like the Principles of Addiction Recovery.
Yeah, oh my goodness, the principles behind transfer.
We've both failed the test anyway.
It's the 3P Recovery Conference.
Yes,
but it is the principles behind transformation. I bet Barbara knows.
Is Barbara here?
Yeah, she's just joined.
Good. I can't see everybody because I've got it on.
Yeah, she just joined.
Anyway, the name, I will put the name up on the notes to the recording. But the point is, it's one of the first conferences about the three principles and their impact on recovery and transformation. And there's people from all over the world going to it, and it's happening in May in Minnesota. And the link, if anyone wants to find out more, or in fact come, will be also with the program notes. So yeah, I'm really excited that thing is happening, and lots of us who are involved in setting it up and supporting Joe Bailey and Amy Johnson, whose idea it was, are doing all kinds of things. And you just mentioned Barbara Smith, who's on this call, and she and I have actually written a book on addiction, which we have just finished, and it's due to be published very soon. So, yeah, but tonight, the focus is on you, Amanda, and you're going to say more for yourself, but obviously, but you for those of you who don't already know you work in a treatment center in Spain, and you are a coach, and you have a coaching practice as well, and I believe that's called the Serendipity Experience. And I'm just going to hand it over to you, Amanda, just to say a bit more about who you are and what you're about, and this whole subject of why you have everything that you need inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Christian, for inviting me to be part of this conversation, and to everybody that's on the call. And there's a couple of faces and a couple of names there that I don't recognize, so that's really nice. So hello all. So yeah, I'm originally from London, and I've been living in Spain, a little town called Javia, which has just had the biggest storms that we've ever had here in 30 years. So it's been all on the news, all around. We've had this big storm that absolutely sort of battered the town, if you like. And it's really lovely just being out today, though, and watching it all get, put back again. That's what happens, isn't it? Something huge happens, like in nature. And within a week, it happened this time last Sunday. And already, lots of damage was created, and then it's all been put back together, and so that was nice to see that today. So yeah, I have been around this understanding that we're talking about, the principles, and for maybe since 2012, and I guess by serendipityness ended up working at a treatment centre full-time 3 years ago, or a little bit longer than 3 years ago, but full-time. And I'm actually, interestingly, just pulling back from being there full-time, so at the end of this month, and that has come from wanting to bring what I've learned by being in full-time, sort of working at a recovery centre and dealing with people who have been at the height of their addiction, active addiction, or the height of their anxiety, or the height of anything. That tends to be why people come into treatment, because they've reached that point where they, I can't do this anymore, or there's been an intervention from the family, or they've, really hit a wall, or hit their, so-called rock bottom, or whatever the words are. But suddenly it's that point where they want to change, or they know there needs to be a change, or they realise they can't do it by themselves, or that kind of thing. So it's been ever so interesting. It's been, you talk about you and Barbara writing a book, and I think it's it's definitely, there's a book there, a book or two there after working in that environment. So I know that, the idea of the conference is to share an understanding, or that we share no matter what world we work in, really, but specifically around the area of recovery and addiction, because of how we've seen that it's been really, really impactful. And actually coming to the conference, I'm actually going to bring with me one of my clients who's going to also, we're going to sort of introduce from what he sees was what he felt was so powerful about I guess he spoke about, it was the welcome that he got at the treatment center. He really feels that there was something about the love and care from how he was received that had such a huge impact on his recovery. And so he actually felt something. He felt, I suppose, a connection. He felt safe. He felt this kind of feeling that he hadn't felt in a long time. And that was before he'd ever done a workshop or a one-to-one or a session. We were very lucky that he actually came in for 3 months. His name's Miguel, and he I love that he's going to sort of just talk to that at the conference. And he's written a book since he's come out of treatment on really that. And so I think there's something about, we named this title, you have everything you need inside. You already have everything you need inside. Or how about you already have everything you need inside of you? Because I think talking to that place in him, knowing that behind this character that had this big list of active addictions was the guy that he truly is, and the guy who he's being today. Once all of those sort of activities and behaviors have fallen away and dropped away, there he is, this guy that's full of love and joy himself, and he couldn't see that in himself. He couldn't see that. And for me, I think there's something so powerful. I love, I believe that there's a panel that I'm going to be on with Joe Bailey and a couple of others, which is about the health of the helper. And I love hearing Joe Bailey talk about that actually it's the health of the people that are helping, the people that are, for example, in a treatment centre, the staff who are helping, the support team. When we are in a good place ourselves, when we remember who we truly are, when we're acting from that place of love, when, for me, having this understanding it just seems to, the implications of understanding how it works means that I hang out in that place of well-being and understanding and security, much more of the time than I did before. and there's something about being in that place that, I don't know, we don't have to try and do too much. The fact of recognizing that that's inside me and that's inside everybody that walks through the door of the treatment center, and everybody that I meet out on the street, or everybody that I meet in the supermarket, or everybody that I meet in the park, or wherever it might be, has got what we would call well-being and resilience and love and gratitude and peace of mind and security and and that's what we've all got, that inside of us, because that's who we are. That's who we are. And I think something that really has impacted me recently, Christian, was I suddenly had this nudge or this urge one day when I was sat in a workshop with a couple of gentlemen who were in their, I don't know, maybe one in their 60s, one in their 70s, and around the age, and suddenly I just thought, I really feel like I should be sharing this with the younger generation.
Hmm.
You know, I really feel like they were looking at me like I was bonkers when I was telling them that, you know, and that story that I hear a lot, which is, oh, it's all right for you, Amanda. It's all right for you because you're happy. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right for you. You know, I would love to be as happy as you. And it just felt for a moment like I was trying to convince them that, and suddenly I just thought, well, what am I doing? You know, like, they'll see it if they're going to see it, or they won't, or, you know, it's not my job to try and sort of, I don't know, I just suddenly got this thing of, wow, do they feel like I'm trying to convert them, or am I trying to, you know, get them, because that wasn't my intention. I wasn't trying to get them to think the way that I think or whatever, but I just saw that they were a little bit, I don't know, maybe not so open-minded or not so open-hearted in that moment to feel that they didn't have that chance, or they didn't have that available to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And something shifted for me there, which is actually why I'm taking a step back and sort of going part-time, to actually start sharing this understanding with teenagers
Ah.
and wrap everything that I've learned from seeing people, like, where they've ended up, and hearing these stories again and again. Oh, well, when I was 12, when I was 13, when I was 14, I was like, right, I just think that actually, I feel like I'm going to be much more helpful speaking to the 12, 13 and 14-year-olds at the moment. So there was a strong pull there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did, actually. I've spent the last sort of 6 weeks in the iHeart training, which is the innate health education and resilience training program of sharing what we share with teenagers, which will be starting soon. So I'm going to be introducing that into Spain. And what I realized was, actually, you know, that program has been designed for, let's say, 11 to 18-year-olds, or up to 20-year-olds, really. But I've often felt, when I've been in the recovery centre, that, you know, the way that we would share with children, because it's so simple, or because we try and keep it very, very simple, I thought, well, that's really the best way for me to share it as well in the treatment centre. This, you know, and I just saw that there's that saying, you already have everything you need inside, is so powerful, but it doesn't look to people when they are in their active addiction like that's even true.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that, Amanda. So, you know, for people who are listening to this, I'm wondering, how do you introduce it to someone? You spoke about people coming into the treatment centre kind of at the height of their addiction, and caught up with everything, all, you know, that and often a very chaotic lifestyle. And I'm wondering, how do you introduce it? How do you introduce these principles?
So I suppose it just, the way that I've done it, and has been quite lucky, really, because I've worked in a residential, you know, care. So often we've got people with us, well, it always is like a minimum of 2 weeks, but normally it's 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 3 months. And because of that, I mean, that really is a gift, in that it doesn't have to be this rush, and it doesn't have to be like, well, we've got to get this program going, you know, like on a certain day. So I think something happens that we just ease into the conversation, but also because the opportunities that I see that where a lot of the learning happens, or a lot of the listening, or a lot of the hearing happens, is not necessarily what we'd call in the classroom, or in the group work, or in the one-to-one, but just having a chat before dinner or after dinner, or just on a dog walk, or, you know, I take my dogs in, they're like the therapy dogs. And sometimes it's just that going out for a walk when people are able to go out, because, you know, they're through their detox or not on any medication or whatever it might be. But and just conversation. But I do run, I mean, I used to set up, I would have a list, if you like, of workshops titles, and and I would start talking about deep listening, or I would start talking about I don't know, I think I would start talking about probably anything but the addiction. It was almost like I kind of took, I would take it away from that. And of course we had lots of, there was a whole team there, and so they would be doing, I suppose, more addiction based. And that was something that Jacqueline Hollows, I remember when I first got an opportunity to, if you like, get my foot in the door of a treatment centre, and saying to Jacqueline, like, oh, have you got any advice for me? Who's, Jacqueline had set up Beyond Recovery. And that was, amazing that she just sort of shared to me, just go in there and be yourself. It's funny, isn't it? Because we talk about not giving advice, but then suddenly it's like, we still want to know any tips or any way forward. And she said to me, let the addiction counsellors talk about the addiction. You just go in there and you just share what you know in the way that feels right to you. And that was really, really lovely, because when I really got to see that I could just be me and just show up in the way, and because the dynamics of the group would change all the time. People are having good days, they're having bad days, and sometimes you get a group that would kind of just really come together, and they were really, really into it. How, I don't know, sometimes when you see people who have been exposed to the principles first time, it's quite like, it's quite drawing, isn't it? It's sort of, so sometimes we'd have those kind of sessions, and other times there would be people where it's like, whoa, this is like way over my head, and so there wasn't really I didn't have a set way. But what's really interesting is that seeing how the curriculum has been set up for the iHeart, for the children, they do have almost, this curriculum that builds upon. So I also see that there is, I also see the value in that. I do. And when people have been, when people have got a lot going on, when people are in that height of their addiction, and it's a big, for me, it's a big thing coming into treatment. There's a, so it's really nice when people have got time to just settle, just really, really settle. And so I suppose I would just start dropping, I would just start dropping things in as we talk, and just, we would often, we might watch a few little videos, or we might watch a few little things and have discussions, but it was always more of a circle rather than me. I never used to like to feel like, I was stood at the front of the room, knowing something that somebody else didn't know, but and really sharing, like, that way of saying, I feel like I've got the biggest secret in the world of recovery. And I used to say that and that's quite a statement, isn't it? But actually it really, and it still feels like that. It feels like that. There is a big secret that it seems like, a lot of us don't know. And it is an understanding of the way our sort of thinking, feeling system works. And when we get to see that, a lot of the other stuff just falls away. And there's something that you used to say, Christian, that I used to love when we've been, I don't know whether it was when we were on our retreat together, or when I've been on one of your conversations, but I used to love the way that if you were talking about well-being or something, and you used to always say, that is not up for grabs. It's not up for grabs.
Yeah, that was the thing that was I think the 180 degree shift for me when I came across the principles, which in my case was after I'd been sober for a long time, and until, it was something was beginning to kind of feel a bit, sort of dodgy, but I had somehow picked up the lie that I was kind of broken, and well-being, or whatever you wanted to call it, was something I had to work very hard at. And and coming into the principles and just hearing, but not just hearing it, but knowing the truth of that at essence, you're fine, and we're all fine, and that is not denial of the insanity and craziness that can accompany active addiction. That's just doing mad, crazy things and falling for a whole lot of false beliefs. But whatever happens, there's that essence, and it's very comforting to know that thing. And it's not just hearing somebody say it, but when it's when that the penny drops with that, when that's taken in, it's very it's very powerful.
It is, I mean, and like we keep saying the same thing. Sometimes it feels like that, in all different ways, or time and time again. We're pointing really. We're only ever pointing back to to a couple of things, I suppose, but mainly, that we have everything that we need inside of us. So it's not that ever goes anywhere. When we talk about all that good stuff and who we are at our true essence, it's not that it goes anywhere. So it's looking at what gets in the way of that. Yeah. And there is something about because what we're talking about is the way something works, right? Our psychological system. What we point people to is the truth of how it really works, that we're only ever feeling thought in the moment. And when sometimes it might be that we have to talk about the way it doesn't work in order for the way it does work to reveal itself. So that is more, I think, what, or it seems to collapse the story, is just pointing again to, well, this is the way it appears to work, and this is the way it really works. And I see that clearer and clearer.
Yeah. Do you know what just occurred to me there, Amanda? I was thinking that I spent, something like 15 years of recovery working. It's just exactly what you were saying, trying to fix myself. And because I wasn't broken in the first place, and because I couldn't be fixed by whatever I did, meditation, journaling, meetings, therapy, counseling, NLP, Reiki. Not that there's anything wrong with those things, but because they because part of being whole is in fact to have variability, and those things couldn't change my essence. They couldn't give me what I was looking for. And then when I came across the principles, which I just sort of stumbled into about 5 years after that, literally like that, I kind of opened up to my well-being, if you like, my essence, whatever word we want to use for it. I mean, literally like that, all the processes and techniques and the big list of things I had to do on a daily basis were just gone. And it was like, so it was so clear that how it didn't work. It just didn't work. And once you kind of see how a thing really works, then all that other stuff falls away, and there's a simplicity, and it's yes. And I really, it's almost 10 years now since that happened, and I really kind of changed on a sixpence. I have been consistently happy. I've had the most exciting decade of my life since then, and it's simply by seeing, this is how it really works. And I don't, of course my moods still go up and down, but there's that consistent happiness is a more deep level thing, and I'm less concerned about the ups and downs, because I'm not making the downs mean that I'm on a dry drunk or crazy or anything like that. Yeah. I loved what you said there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there is something, I think, about, when we see that wherever, whatever we're believing to be true, our thinking follows that. Mm-hmm. So, if we're kind of what you would call aligned with the understanding that we're only feeling thought, then something happens there. It just seems to be that we have that kind of thinking that is in flow, and it's in tune, and it's in alignment. And once we're outside of that, so once we're sort of, looking to the outside, if we believe the problems are outside, or we believe the problems are in our circumstances or in our family or in our jobs or whatever it may be, then our thinking follows that too. So thinking follows whichever, wherever we're looking at. And that's that overthinking that I see happens. And it's this overthinking that it totally makes sense to me why people reach out for something, whether that's alcohol, drugs, chocolate biscuits, sex, whatever it might be, just to try and stop that or numb that or slow that down. So, it is back to that. It makes sense that people have reached out for stuff. That makes total sense to me. It sometimes, maybe that's being, whatever it is they've had to reach for has saved them from getting really caught up with their thinking and doing something really silly or really stupid, or harming themselves or harming others or whatever it might be, to date. But if they're seeing that, that they know that that isn't the answer, and it never works, it never sustains, and people who have come into recovery now see that they were on some kind of wild goose chase, and they would always be on that wild goose chase, because we are trying to chase a feeling that does not exist out there. We're chasing something. I love the way that, that metaphor that I heard the other day, somebody talking about, when the rabbits let out, the greyhound races, they let the rabbit out first, that the greyhound is never going to catch the rabbit. It's not going to happen. The design is that it's always just slightly ahead of that, of the first greyhound, and that's the same thing, and that's why it feels like, the next one, whether we're chasing, people are chasing business deals or chasing men or chasing women or chasing, and it's like, the next one, and it's like that slippery bar of soap. We're never gonna find it in the next drink or the next drug or the next bet or the next whatever, because it doesn't come from there, and it never ever ever did. So like you, Christian, the principles really, my coming across understanding also like changed. It was like for me it was a, on a click, and my story wasn't that I was really depressed or in any active addiction, or I was good. I was a happy girl, and but very busy minded. So that was for me the biggest gift. Came peace of mind, and if you like, there was like this explanation for everything. Like everything fell into place. Oh, now it all makes sense. Like for me, it was totally, all human behavior made sense.
Yeah, lovely.
And the innocence of human behavior. It took me, when I first came across this, it took me a while to get my head around. I didn't think that I could ever see the innocence in things like, I don't know, child abusers, or, I had a list of things where I thought were exceptions. And so at the very beginning, I remember I was very inquisitive and curious and asked lots of questions, and I drove Jack Pransky bonkers. He was my mentor for many years with all my questions, but that helped me to see what it wasn't and what it was. And I don't know, maybe that's a good place to open it up for questions, if there's anybody who's who's on the call, who might be listening and has anything that they particularly wish to talk to. And I can see there's Mike and Barbara and Steve and Jill.
And Joel, who emailed you, has managed to join the call.
That's fantastic. So I know Joe's got a question there she sent in earlier, but does anybody have a question about anything, or wishes to add on to anything that we've just sort of mentioned or talked about? Don't all rush at once.
Mike, I know that you are, sorry to put you on the spot, but I know that you're relatively new to this, less new to the recovery world, by a long shot. I wonder, do you have any questions? It'd be lovely to hear your take, and if you're up for that, I can unmute you.
Oh, you talk to me?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. You're the only mic on the call.
I missed the mic bit. Sorry about that. No. Yeah. I'm relatively new to the principles. Well, I am. I don't know a lot about them, to be honest with you. But I certainly know a lot about addiction. Well, I think I do. Probably do. Well, I probably don't, actually, because I ended up addicted to alcohol and drugs. But I've been clean 38 years now, but been sober quite a while. But this is all fascinating stuff for me, to be honest with you. I'm listening to you speaking, Amanda, and everything that I listen to and I read at the moment, I'm having real light bulb moments, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know, I can't even remember what it was that you just said there, but I just went, yeah. You know what I mean? And yeah, if my life depended on it, I couldn't tell you what I've just said. Yeah, I got that. You know.
I know, isn't that? Isn't that's lovely, really? Because it's exactly that. It's just that feeling. There's something. There's just for me anyway. I can only describe how I hear it, but suddenly when you're in this sort of space, you fall into a feeling. That's that's what you hear that being said so many times, but you just fall into a nice space, and it is sometimes indescribable.
I was just thinking, golly, how lovely to go for a walk in rehab, with the dog, because certainly that didn't happen. In my day, they watched you like a hawk. You just weren't even allowed out the premises. They might go for a walk with a dog,
Yeah.
But this must be really, I don't know, for people in rehab, because my head was like a war zone. That's the best way I can explain it, and it still can be. Hence, that's why I'm interested in the principles. But certainly, the first 5 years in recovery, I wasn't right in the head. My family's told me that, so it took me a long time, but yeah, I don't know really what to say, to be honest with you.
Mike, when I sort of said that you already have everything you need inside of you, does that make sense? Like,
absolutely. And I don't know who. I think it was Christian that was saying. I mean, I've looked at. I trained in transcendental meditation. I've trained in Reiki. I'm a shaman. I've done 2 apprentices in shamanism. I can go on and on and on and on, But I look on this, what I'm discovering, the little bits that I know, as this makes so much sense to what I do, because I practice and teach shamanism, which really does, and this so much resonates with me. Yes, the answer, simple answer, what you just said there is yes. Yeah, it all. I've looked at everything spiritually that you could possibly look at to fix me, and I don't need to.
Yeah.
There, yeah. Sorry for rabbiting on there.
No, it's great. No, I love that, and what an interesting subject. I'd love to hear about that another time. Shamanism. But I think what having this, if you like, for me as a foundation of understanding, then it really allowed me to kind of enjoy all the other things again, if you like doing that. So if Reiki works, you enjoy the Reiki group, or you enjoy a certain meditation group, or you enjoy a certain yoga group, or you enjoy going to do whatever, plant medicine, or whatever it is that people do, that there's something about actually being able to enjoy then the rituals and enjoy those things, knowing that it's not those things that are fixing you or healing you or making you better, if you like, that you're already okay. And then there are lots of these different activities out there that just, some of them align with us more than, some people, some things align with, and others they don't. But knowing that you don't have to do it as a technique to be okay gives such freedom. For me, we can play more then with all the, with all of what I'd call activities and what was on offer. Because for a while, I think when I first heard, in whatever way I heard it, like, oh, you don't need to do meditation or yoga or this, or whatever, it's almost like I pull back from doing all those things. And and pulling back even from, I grew up as a like in an Irish sort of Catholic background, and I went very much against all of that kind of, when I did all my travellings and I was exploring all different things. But since being around the principles and everything, I think what I've seen for myself and what I've seen for other people, it actually allows them to enjoy those things more, because they do see them as a...
Is it Amanda who's...
Yeah.
Mike, oh, it is. Yeah, Amanda's frozen. I'm just going to pause, Jane.
Okay, so I disappeared and then Mike disappeared.
I think Mike's having a comfort break.
Yeah, but what I saw was, I think I was talking about how, only because I had to go to a funeral recently over in Ireland, and then I went to mass with my aunt, and I was in there and I thought, wow, this priest, I've never heard a priest speak like that. And it was like being at one of my workshops. and I was like, oh, I wonder if, if that's, I'm hearing it different, or he, he's really something different. But I don't know, it helped me to enjoy things. And I've heard a lot of people say that it's helped them go back into the rooms and to use the fellowships for what they're, what they're very helpful for, in that there's this community, and that there's, a support group, and they don't take it too seriously either, in a good way. So that they can still sort of use it, and I love that. I love that we can get more curious, or that's what happened, or that I've seen happen around me, get more curious with everybody's different belief systems and ways of doing things, rather than seeing that there's a kind of wrong or right way.
Yeah, that's lovely. I had a really powerful experience once when my son was at university, and his college had a Christmas service. It was early in December, when the end of his term, and I just went into it. It was a very small, ancient chapel that it was in, and they had all the sort of hymns, and I ended up, so I'd come in with the choir by accident, and ended up right at the front. But I was absolutely suffused with gratitude, just suffused with it. And I mean, I'm not a practicing Christian or anything like that, but the hymns were beautiful, the carols were beautiful, but it wasn't just that. It was about everything. About I'm so grateful for being alive now, and I was over the sort of, I was contrasting life over the past 2 millennia, and tears were pouring down my face. I didn't have a key to sort of stop it, and I was right in the front, but I was just overwhelmed with gratitude. And I know it was coming. The principles were, my understanding of the principles was giving me an ability to sort of see all of this and take in all of this and be incredibly grateful for my life and everything in it, and what I know of spirituality, or what I understand, what I think I know, what I understand of it. But it was quite wonderful, and it was just seeing, I think, at the deepest level of what was on offer in this religious service, and without it being tied to any particular dogma or beliefs, but the deepest level of being human, being alive.
And it's like the underpinning of it all, isn't it? So I think, even maybe in the beginning, when I used to was sharing this from the beginning, I think that maybe I might have made it more of a thing, like, made the understanding like as if it was something separate to, I don't know, let's say, Buddhism, or to, you know, another understanding, but really staying away from that, you know, that just doesn't make sense to me anymore. But seeing it is the underpinning, the foundation of for me, all the religions and all the beliefs and all the, you know, we couldn't have any of those experiences or even create any of those books or beliefs without the principles and actions. So, you know, they really are. It's everything, and all of it, and all of it's amazing. Just the fact that we can create anything, yeah, let alone everything. You know, just the fact that is what we are doing, is bringing thought alive. I mean, that is so clever. It's so clever. And when we seem to be more, what just seems to happen for me anyway, or I've seen that more deeply, the more that I'm, if you like, in the logic, the more that I'm in a line, the more that I'm, you know, in the understanding, the more that I see the understanding, the easier everything is, that there's just less effort. And that whole uphill struggle just doesn't seem to be there when I get out of my own way. What I see a lot or what I saw a lot in the treatment centre, people that remind me a lot of myself. And, you know, I was quite a big, the know-it-all. The know-it-all, the book, because I deal with a lot of people that are sort of, you know, or they were the head of their game, and they're, you know, quite affluent people or quite influential people that are used to having everybody say yes sir kind of thing, and you know, and so there is that, that's what I call it, the know-it-all character. And when we're in that space, there's not really room for hearing something new. So one of the things that I noticed that worked really well for me was I didn't even try and speak to anybody on a one-to-one or share anything with anybody that didn't really want to do that with me. So I would have a little chat, maybe something like this, what we're talking about, and sort of say to everyone, if anything I've said kind of resonates, then, you know, why don't we have a little sort of one-to-one chat? And isn't that interesting that I could be in a room, let's say there were 6 people, and 3 of those people would think I was great and would love me, and I wish I could just take you home with me, and blah blah blah. And the other 3 wouldn't like me at all.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that, it's like you know, and I'm just me. I've just been up there doing whatever I'm doing. So it's a little bit like half the world love you and half the world hates you, and you're just you.
And all of them are hearing their version of what you said, of what they think you said.
Yeah. Yeah. So that little chat, you know, it's interesting because we changed sort of houses. So we, you know, the treatment centre was here in Spain, and I suppose they're like big villas really. And in our last the last treatment centre, we changed house last year, but we had a big open kitchen with 2 chefs. So what would be really interesting was what the chefs would hear. Say after workshop broke, everybody would go out, you know, would either go for a cigarette break or go and make a coffee. And that's where the chat would happen. Like, what did you think of that then? Or what a load of old nonsense. Or what a load of old, you know, or, oh my God, I've never heard anything like this. That's where the little chat would happen. And it used to be quite interesting how people, so you know, how people still think that they've got the power to, I don't know, that we'd be offended by them or affected by them. So they would say, oh, that was brilliant, thanks. And then they'd go outside and go, what is she going on about? and there used to be this guy who used to say to one of the others, I don't know what she's going on about, but she's really into it. Like, she really loves it. and you know, and so actually, even if people didn't, I don't know, seem to resonate with them at first, which sometimes it doesn't, we're just sowing the seeds, right? They would pick up on the passion that I seem to have when I talk about this stuff. It wakes me up. It's like I dance inside when I'm sharing I really think actually I'm at my best when I'm talking about this, because it's like I remind myself again, and I get almost so excited. I sometimes apologize before I'm doing a workshop or a talk, because I get so inspired and so moved, that often I have tears in my eyes, and saying to people in front of me, I would love you to just get a tiniest glimpse of what it is that I've seen. And I would love you to see yourself the way that I see you. For people that have come in just feeling like they are broken or no good or can't be trusted or have whatever, to be told, do you know what? You're okay. Inside, you're okay. And yes, there might be, a little bit of making up to do, or some amends to have been made and all that stuff. But don't worry, we're here, we're going to help you with all that stuff. But to know that inside you're okay and you've got the opportunity to start afresh and start again. So it's very moving, it's very touching. And I love what Mike kind of said earlier, is that, actually you can't even remember what we just said, maybe 20 seconds ago. But it's like something, we speak to something inside of somebody else on a different level. We're using words because of course we do. That's how we communicate. Humans talk, and dogs bark, and cats meow, and babies cry, and that's how we communicate. And sometimes I think, we talk too much. So sometimes I play music at the beginning of one of my workshops or at the end. And just, we just sit and listen. I don't know, whatever songs popped in my mind. And there's something about sat in just listening to, I don't know, it might be a Beatles song or Simon and Garfunkel or whatever it might be, something that's popped into my head that might, be relevant to something we've just been talking about. And we fall into that place. And there's something about listening to this, and I've heard this said many times, but it does make sense. You're listening to us having a conversation and not trying to take account of every word and what it means and what Christian means by that and what Amanda means by that, but just hearing it like you'd hear a piece of music. And we don't try and break it down. We don't break down a piece of music by note by note by note. We just listen to a song and it sort of, I don't know, it gets inside of us, right? So there's there's good feelings just there, waiting in the sidelines, or waiting for you all the time, because that is who you are, and they're always there. And the only thing that gets in the way of that is thinking that we're not, thinking that we're not okay. So that I love the Jack Pransky quote that he has on his website, that all we are is peace, love, and wisdom, and the power to create the illusion that we're not.
Yeah. We used that quote. We attributed to Jack, of course, in our book. Yeah.
Oh,
it's lovely. You? Yes.
Yeah, Barbara. That for me really wraps it up.
Yeah.
Like, wait, we've got it. You already have everything you need inside of you. That is really good news. I say to people, this is great news. Like, you've got it. Everything you've been looking for, or you want. For me, the whole world's chasing a feeling of love. I mean, that's how I've always seen it. We're all chasing a feeling, and whether you call that word love with connection or whatever word you describe, but I do see that that connection and love is what you'd call the ultimate healer. If people can hang out in that place, if you can have that feeling in a treatment center, and I hear what Mike said there earlier, because I work with people that have worked in a lot of treatment centers, but I also, as clients, sometimes you know, we might have had a client come in and they've been in 7 treatment centres or 8 treatment centres or 10 treatment centres, and they're like, oh, there's something different here. And you know, if that's just because the presence of love is being felt, that's all we need, you know. And that health of the helper, I think people working in the world of recovery, when they truly see that their well-being is okay and they're resilient no matter what's going on around them, and they recognize that in everybody that walks through that door, that beneath the madness, and I mean anybody that's been in recovery or working in recovery or whatever, no, I mean it's sometimes it's just bonkers, isn't it? You know, the stories and sometimes it's really funny. Sometimes, I mean, we laugh a lot, have laughed a lot at work, because you've got some of the funniest people. You know, so somebody said to me, I don't think there's any funny people out there in the pubs anymore, because they're all in the treatment centres or in the rooms of AA. Because you've got the characters, you know, you've got the people that liked living life on the edge. You know, the people that were, you know, a lot of really, really good characters, and you know, suddenly all the madness that they've been created settles, and then that jolly character comes out again. You know, and they don't need a drink to be jolly, or they don't need a drink or whatever it might be to have a laugh or have a giggle or take the mick out of themselves. That lightness that comes back, you know, you find yourself having the joke or being in the banter. You know, it depends where you, I suppose it depends where you're brought up, or it depends wherever, but being able to laugh and joke again, I love to see that in the treatment centre or in anywhere in recovery, because for me, when people are able to laugh or be lighthearted, then, you know, I know that they're on their way to really, really feeling that recovery. So keep it light is one of the, you know, I suppose one of the sayings, or that I say to myself all the time. Keep it light. It's lighten up.
Oh, Amanda, you're a terrific example of that. Yeah, that's great.
You are, Amanda. Yeah. I'm going to just jump in for a second and say I'm really looking forward to being around your lightness of spirit at the conference.
Oh, hello, Barbara. Yeah, me too. Looking forward to meeting all you guys on the other side of the pond.
Yeah, and you're head of the fun committee, so I'm looking forward to dancing. I'd like some dancing.
No pressure, eh? no pressure, but yeah, I look forward to that too. I just Christian, do we have, I don't know how long we've got left.
We've only got a couple of minutes, Amanda, and I'm afraid I have something, I have to head out, so but please do take that couple of minutes.
So you know, I just really wanted to is it Joe, is that how you pronounce your name? I don't know if Joe's able to be muted, or she wants to come into the conversation, but I loved you know, earlier Joe just sort of sent a little email, and she was talking about how sometimes she finds herself very similar to me, you know, can fall into the world of procrastination, or so, you know, other people might call it laziness, or, you know, stuck in a rut, or whatever it might, you know, whatever that might be, and seeing that we've already got everything that we need inside of us to do whatever it is that, you know, the energy wishes us to do. I think again, it is, we can't do anything but point back to, well, what's getting in the way of that? I mean, you know, it's not that we have to find, I don't know, it's not so much that we have to find ways to motivate ourselves. It's that we have to, if we can just highlight and shine a light on what is getting in the way. Because for me, that it can only be a belief system that we have that's not true.
Yeah. Amanda, Jo just messaged me just to say that she can't come on her, but she's going to watch. Her connection's bad, but she's enjoying listening, and she's going to watch the recording.
And we'll have that. We'll have a chat. You know, we can have a chat another time about that.
Yeah.
But seeing that back again to that Jack Prensley quote, there's an illusion that we are creating that gets in the way. And if we can just see what that is, if we can go into deep reflection, whether that's on our own or with somebody else or in a small group, something shifts. Something shifts. I've had the most incredible shifts being in a group where, or in a couple, you know, in a I don't know, little chat. And that deep listening is for me one of the biggest gifts. If we can deep listen to ourselves and deep listen to each other, really deep listen to what is it that we're not seeing? You know, what is it we're seeing and what is it that we're not seeing? And if it is all there, if we have got everything that we need inside of us, then how comes it doesn't always feel like that? Because it doesn't always feel like that. It doesn't always feel like we've got everything we need inside. Because and here we go, X, Y, and Z, and we're off, right? The story, the moaning, and if we can just catch that, that it, you know, the moment we come back to, I suppose, what you'd call the single paradigm, or, you know, Keith Blevins and Valda Monroe always point to that ultimate question, the ultimate discriminator. Where do you think your feelings are coming from? Where do you think they're coming from? When we see that 100%, no exceptions to the rule, all that's ever happening is that, you know, we are feeling thought in the moment, that leads us to feeling our wellness and our well-being and making good decisions and being aligned. When we're in that when we're in that space, something more is available to us, like clarity and wisdom and common sense. And anything but that, if we believe that our feelings are coming from anywhere but thought in the moment, we're going to get caught up in a cycle of overthinking and getting stuck, and insecurity and vulnerability and fear. And then we're in that cycle and it's back around again. And we hop from one to the other, right? And you know, sometimes it appears to me like something is making me happy. And for a lot of the time, that's not a problem. Like, if I believe the sun's making me happy, it's not a problem most of the time. I don't have to worry about that. It's still outside in, you know. But to seeing, it's a game. You know, it's a game. Not a problem when we're feeling good, but when we're not feeling good, that's where we tend to grabs our attention. That's when it grabs our attention, and that's why that gets. But what we're pointing to is nothing has the power. No thing has the power to make us feel anything. That includes feeling good as well as feeling bad. It's not, you know, it's both, you know. So I hope that some of you guys are able to, if you're not able to come to this amazing conference, you're able to maybe tune in, or like, what would you call it, Christian?
Because it's a live stream, yeah. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that would be really great. And I believe that there'll be the live stream, and then I believe there will probably be a recording afterwards, probably.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's Barbara's the expert on this call on that, but I'm not quite sure of the details.
But this is a you know, a big event. This is the first ever international you know, 3 Principles Addiction and Recovery conference, and
yeah,
is that wonderful to see people from all over are coming together. one mission to just spread this, you know, to point people towards the truth. So thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody for showing up, or whoever's listening. And see you soon.
Yeah, and just to say, Amanda, that you've done one of the things that you've done in support of this is you've recorded like 90 separate interviews with different practitioners and students of the principles, and those are all available on YouTube.
Yeah, they're all on the YouTube channel. It's called 1990.
Yeah, and people can contact you. Your details are there, and I'll also put it on this.
Yeah, Amanda O'Shea, and I've got a radio show going at the moment. I've got a six weekly series radio show talking about this stuff live on the air on the Spanish radio. So in English, though, in English speaking. So we're all out there doing our bit in whichever way we can. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Listen, thank you so much for coming along tonight. Really appreciate it. It's great to see you again, and thank you.